Hi, welcome to episode 157 of Fresh Air at 5. Can't believe it, all week long I've been thinking it's been 156 as I've been out walking and listening and learning, but it's actually 157. So, this week we learn more about artificial intelligence, and I start off by listening to a colleague out in Ontario talk about how she used it to prepare a lesson, talked about also listen to Chris Nesi as he brings us, some thoughts and commentary about the digital divide that's happening even now in our new age of the digital world that we live in. Wrapping the week up with excellence in preparing teachers for artificial intelligence. So, without further ado, there's a lot of AI in this. There's some other thoughts in this as well. But here's episode 157, Fresh Air at 5.
I'm Alfonso Mendoza, host of the My Ed Tech Life podcast, a part of the Education Podcast Network. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other interesting education podcasts at edupodcastnetwork.com.
Welcome to Fresh Air at 5, the podcast. I'm your host, Brian Carpenter, coming to you every week from Abbotsford, which is about 45 minutes east of Vancouver, British Columbia, on the west coast of Canada. Fresh Air at 5 is my regular attempt to get some fresh air by walking about my neighborhood, which is located on the traditional and unceded territory of the Stolo people, the Simath First Nation and Mathwee First Nation. I consume podcast content while I walk, then reflect on this content in an unedited video, which I post on my X, formerly known as Twitter, channel every day. This podcast is the collection of the audio taken from those daily selfie videos over the course of a week, Monday to Friday. So let's jump into my listening and learning this past week. Good morning, PLN. It is February 5, 2024, out for Fresh Air at 5. It is a crisp 3 degrees Celsius. The wind is blowing about 11 kilometers per hour, but it's nice. It's good. It's not too windy, and I'm enjoying being outside. Yes. So this morning as I'm walking, I listened to Season 7, Episode 2 of Shooks and Giff as Jen Giffen brings us what I think is a fantastic episode as she shares with us her workflow to create a lesson plan and lesson slides and all the resources and everything from start to finish using artificial intelligence. She talks us through how she worked through some of the kinks and strategies and ways of approaching lesson planning. She could have done this whole thing out without AI, but she wanted to do the whole thing with AI, and that is a fantastic thing to give a try of because it helps us understand some of the capacities and some of those things. So, she said there's tools like Magic School that can do this for us, but she wanted to do it herself using ChatGPT, Microsoft Image Creator, plus AI, and other tools like that, she was having to think and be a critical thinker in the process of getting the progression through all of these steps. So take a listen to this. Be inspired. Jen, I want to say personally, thank you for walking us through this because this is something that I'm like, people talk about lesson planning and how to use it, but it's about how you did it and your specific example of how you did it and all the detail that you went into. Appreciate that. Take a listen, subscribe to Shooks and Giff. Jen's coming back. She's in season 7 now and doing a great job. Oh, Jen, just an audio thing. There's some little chipmunk sounds in different parts of your audio for some reason. Not sure. Okay, just a podcaster to podcaster. Hope you're having a great day. All right, happy Monday. Bye. One more thing for Monday, February 5, 2024. I listed episode 122 of the Define University podcast with Lindsay Titus. She brings us teacher resilience unpacked, connection, pausing, and simplicity. And in this episode, she talks about her personal journey right now and how things are going, and her promise to do a podcast weekly, and well, that didn't happen, and fitting it in and logistics around that. And Lindsay, I appreciate your honesty, because you're a podcaster and you're out front and people are watching what Lindsay does, and you're telling us what Lindsay does, and that is so important. We have to be vulnerable and authentic, otherwise we're, well, one, not being true to ourselves. We're making promises and then not delivering and saying we're delivering, and that's not great. But we also have to, we're modeling how we are getting through this thing that is challenging, or, full and rich, and family's great. And, how do we do all the things and still be a family person? So yes, take a listen to Lindsay, episode 122. And that's it for One More Thing right now. Last thing for February 5, 2024. I wrapped up with listening to Teach Happier with Suzanne Daly. And I'm listening on Monday today, Suzanne, not later in the week. So thank you so much for your consistent dropping of your episode on Sunday so we can catch it before work on Monday. I'm sharing this with my friend who's a new teacher, and she is, experiencing new teacher things. She commented to me how she didn't realize how much emotional, it's going to take transitioning between semester 1 and semester 2. And that's true, And I said to her, I said, hey, you know what? You've been teaching for, 1 year right now, full time. This is your first year of full time teaching, and it takes time to get through these things. So, Teach Happier, bonus episode called Treat Yourself. Thank you, Suzanne, for sharing Gretchen Rubin's thoughts about getting just a bit better. There's a book she wrote, Better Than Before, I think it was. And that goes into something that I say about, wanting to affect people and make a difference in their lives so that they're better afterwards than when they were before they spent time with me. That's my goal and focus as a teacher, to grow my students and make them better than they were before. All right, you talked about treat yourself and how you have a list of things in your phone that you write down that bring you happiness and joy, and that you can go to when you are feeling stressed and overwhelmed. You can pause and go, hey, where's my treat yourself list? And, maybe go spend some time with your dog, scratch your dog, drink a cup of apple tea, things like that. For myself, it would be to make a cup of coffee on my gas stove, wait for it to brew, and then sit down and take that first sip. That is so important. Jeff Gargas taught me that from Teach Better, and that's important, that we have these little moments in our days that can remind us of the goodness. All right, take a listen to this for yourself and share this with my friend. Happy Monday. Bye. Out for fresh air at 5 in the evening. It kind of looks the same because it's dark, but there's more road noise. That might be a tip for you, that it's not the same time of day. This evening, I listened to episode 241 of the House of EdTech as Chris Nesi brings us a rich episode as he talks about the digital divide, exploring equity and access in education, and talking about policy and about opportunities and about where to get funding from. And this is an important discussion as we are moving forward, because the internet is a thing that is here and we all should have access to it. Some say, oh, there's too much internet. Well, in a world where we have the internet and now we have artificial intelligence, our ability to interact digitally in this world is, I think, paramount as we move forward for students in our education system and as I grow into adults, because this next generation, even the students that are graduating in the next 2 or 3 years are significantly impacted by the increased need for digital access and digital equity. So take a listen to this. Thanks, Chris. It's so good to hear you talk about this. What am I going to do about it? On Monday, February 12th, I've been invited to the Ministry of Education along with 5 other BC educators to meet with the ministry in a working group to talk about artificial intelligence and digital learning. And what are we doing about it and how are we moving forward with it? So this is a first step or an early step in what's going on here in British Columbia. And I'm thankful that I've been selected to represent. So yes, talking about, we had a thing. There's a legislation that came out about banning cell phones effective September 2024 in classrooms. And what's the effect of that going to be on our education system? All right, that's all I got for right here. Coming back in a second. Goodbye. One more thing for February 7, 2024. I've got a hashtag new to me podcast that I just listened to. And as you know where I'm walking, it wasn't very long since I recorded that last segment there. But I listened to a new podcast by Chris Nesi as he brings us a daily podcast, Monday to Friday, that he is going to be recording. And he's already on episode 25 that I listened to today, called Inspiring Thoughts Daily. So Chris, congratulations on launching another podcast, yet another podcast. And this one seems a very reflective and contemplative, that's what I'm looking for, podcast as you bring us an inspiring thought to bring a spring to our steps. The topic on episode 25 was that of temperance as a virtue. And what does temperance have to do with things in our world today of excess? And you talk about temperance being about moderation and self-control, and about the long game, and about responding calmly and not being exuberant in our excessive in our responses and explosive. So yes, thanks Chris for this. I'm going to try to listen. I don't make a promise I'm going to listen to this every day, because then on Fresh Air at 5 I just be having Inspiring Thoughts Daily every week and all that. But people, go take a listen to Chris's Inspiring Thoughts Daily. I might not report on it myself every day, but I will listen from time to time. Thanks, Chris. You're doing awesome. Keep it going, and be a model of temperance as you move forward. I'll do my best to do the same over here. Okay, bye. The last thing for February 7, 2024, wrapping up my walk this evening, I listened to episode 88 of Evolving with Gratitude. Lainey Rowell brings us a new way of doing podcasting for herself, as she is going to bring us some of the articles that she has written on Thrive Global, and talk about her learning through writing and share that learning with us here on the podcast. So this is their 3rd season of the podcast. It is episode 88 overall, I believe, Lainey. And you are bringing us this episode, in this episode, a part 1, part 2, part 3 of, about our happy hours, about how to take and do time management secrets, to make our lives better. In this 3-part series that you shared in this podcast, you talked about harnessing our attention and what do we need to do to pay attention to our attention so that we're not distracted. Pushing away multitasking as an ineffective way of doing things because we can't do them effectively very well. You did talk about temptation bundling, which is a technique where we take a positive thing that's we like to do and partner it with something that we're not really enjoying doing, like drinking that first cup of coffee in the morning and having a task attached to that is more challenging, but because of the cup of coffee and we enjoy our coffee, that makes getting going in the morning better for ourselves. I do a little temptation bundling myself. On Wednesday nights when my daughter's at choir, I go to Starbucks and I sit at Starbucks, I get an Americano, and I get a marshmallow dream bar. It's a Rice Krispie snack, and I have it sit beside me, and I sip my coffee, I get marking done, It's pretty effective. Lastly, you talked about savoring moments in our days and paying attention to that, and that'll increase gratitude and awareness of ourselves. All right, you got to listen to the whole episode because it's really good. So that's all I got. Thanks. Bye. Hey PLN, Thursday, February 8, 2024. Out this morning, it's 3 degrees Celsius, very calm, high overcast clouds, and quite comfortable, quite nice. It's nice. It's crisp, but it's not nasty because the wind isn't blowing very hard. All right, this morning as I'm walking, I listened to the Optimalist podcast, and Sarah Candela has on guest Eric Francis, who is the owner and operator of Maverick Education, I think out of Arizona, but that doesn't matter because in our world today, we can connect with people regardless of where they are. But Eric and Sarah talk about education today and how we as educators and our system of education takes the questioning process that we grow up with. We are curious when we are little. We ask the why. And then we go to school, and then the kindergarten teacher has 30 students that are asking why. And the way to manage that, because we can't provide all of those answers all of the time to our students, is to turn questioning from a place of learning and understanding to a place of assessment. This is the first time I've actually thought about this, that how we use the question mark for assessment. We want to find out what students do know. But how do we get them to know what they're supposed to know? Do we allow them curiosity and questioning, or do we just provide them all this information and then expect it? All right, so they talked about depth of knowledge, the 4 levels, and then the conversation turned to looking at critical thinking and creativity in this world of AI that we live in. We can't stop it, as we've all known, but we can keep ourselves human in the loop. We can keep ourselves, asking questions of what we're getting back and being critical thinkers of that. Fantastic. Thank you, Sarah. Thank you, Eric, and have a fabulous day. The last thing for February 8, 2024. Last night as I was walking, I listened to a New to Me podcast by Chris Nesi. He mentioned it on House of Ed Tech, and I listened to the first episode for myself last night, episode 25, and today I listened to episode 26 because, if you got a 3-minute episode you could listen to, why not listen to it? So Chris, it showed up in my podcatcher right after I listened to my last segment there, and I'm listening to you talk about applying wisdom in our daily life. And wisdom is a thing that's kind of an ethereal thing. It is about the substance of knowledge. It's about living well with knowledge, and what do we do with that knowledge and apply it to our everyday as we walk around. We can go to class and we can learn all this information about science and science knowledge, but then we step out of the classroom, and if we just keep it in our textbooks and keep it in that room, we can go through our lives and not do science. We might not understand, what's going on around us because, we just have it compartmentalized. Wisdom is about taking and uncompartmentalizing the knowledge, taking it out of its box in our everyday. What do I know? What do I know about light? As I'm walking this morning and I'm looking around and I see light, there's some headlights coming straight at me. I can go, wow, yeah, light. It's about photons and it's about waves. And it's, wow, yeah, I see that. But what's practical about that? It's being emitted by a source, and it's in a vehicle coming straight towards me, and I got to do something about that. So if I don't understand what the light is and that it's a signal that there's a vehicle coming and I got to get out of the way, I'm going to get run over, and it's the wisdom isn't going to go very far. So it's about, paying attention and being aware of our surroundings, being reflective. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. Have a fabulous day. Chris says this different than I just did. So take a listen to episode 26 of Inspiring Thoughts Daily. Hey, PLN, it's Friday, February 9, 2024. This morning I woke up and I was feeling a little crummy, so I did not go for my walk. I've been starting to battle something this week, a cold or something, but I'm feeling a little bit better, quite a bit better actually today now, but I didn't go for my walk just to save my energy and to get healthy. All right, this morning as I listened, though, I did sit on my lazy boy chair and I put my AirPods in and listen to the Easy Ed Tech podcast. It's a bonus episode with 5-star technology solutions that Monica Burns talks with Joe Marshall and Lisa Katchel. And they talk about how to prepare educators for excellence in AI. Now, that is one concept I have not wrapped my head around yet. More, it's been about survival in this age of AI and how do we survive as opposed to thrive. So I do appreciate hearing this conversation this morning as Monica and Joe and Lisa talk about how 5-Star is a professional development company bringing awareness to teachers in schools and working with them to teach them some prompt techniques and ways of increasing their productivity. They talk about how would you like to get your Sunday evenings back, which is when teachers do a lot of prep for the Monday and school coming up. And how would how can AI be supportive in some of the routine tasks that you have to make you more productive? All right. As we are moving along in this AI age that we're in, it is becoming apparent that we need professional development in a hurry. Now, that professional development, by the time it gets to the masses, will it be out of date? It might be because of how things are moving. But we still need to do our part and do our best that we possibly can. This weekend, I'm heading to Victoria to the Ministry of Education for a meeting on Monday about artificial intelligence and digital learning here in British Columbia, part of a development team. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to speak into this from my perspective as a teacher at my school. All right, have a good day. Thanks, Monica, Lisa, and Joe. Bye. I appreciate you giving me a listen as I've created this podcast experience for you. It's like a unique Blinkist or Coles Notes version of the content I take in, like a highlight reel, so that you can hopefully find some other interesting podcasts you may not have considered before. I've recorded the specific episode podcast titles and episode numbers in the show notes, which are only a click or swipe away for your learning convenience. I've also started to put together a Spotify playlist of each of the episodes so that you can also take a listen to those specifically, and the link to that playlist is in the show notes. Please subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. And if you enjoyed this podcast and its format, share it with someone else. You can also follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Brian Carr, BRYONCAR, or at Fresh Air at 5. Tweet about your experience or give it a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Fresh Air at 5 can be found on the Educational Podcast Network. Podcasts for educators, podcasts by educators. I hope you have a fantastic day. Get some fresh air before the day is out and take care of yourself because you are worth it.